Mate, how did it feel when they gave you that death sentence?
Uh, Fucking shit. Because they'd always tell you from the beginning, the first week I was in captivity, they said, "Oh, like, you're a mercenary. You know, mercenaryism is the death sentence." And I was like, "What? But I'm not a mercenary. There's no but in Donetsk you're a mercenary." And I would argue with them as like, "Yeah, but under international law, I'm not a mercenary." And then they would always turn around and say, like, international law doesn't exist here. You're a mercenary under Donetsk law. And I was like, Jesus, like, if this is the way it's gonna go after everything I've been through, this is how I fucking die.
Oh, mate, Jesus.
Yeah.
And how was your treatment while in captivity?
The first few days of when I surrendered, when I first met the Russians, when I went with my company, because like we surrendered like company by company, and I'm sure you saw the video previously where the 501st like surrendered like en masse, and it was similar to that. We like came with our, I'm sure there's a video out there somewhere where you can probably spot me maybe. And then we got searched and they checked our documents and stuff, and they didn't say anything about me being British at that point. They were just like, the guys that like searched and like saw it was just like a bit surprised and just asked like why I'm here. I just said like my fiance is Ukrainian, and they just gave it back. And then we got loaded into the bus and got transferred over to DPR custody, which is where the fun began. And then we got taken to like some empty warehouse where they were processing us, and we were forced to stand in this like fucking ridiculous like position for like hours, and then one by one they were like fucking processing each of us, and then eventually it came to me. Gave him my military documents first, then gave him my veterans card, and then I gave him my passport. And on my passport, I've got a Ukrainian cover, so it looks like a Ukrainian passport on like if you looked at it. But when he opened it, he quickly realised that something wasn't right, and then he asked me like in Russian, he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was like, "Great Britain." As soon as I said that, like I got a fucking punch to the nose and like beat a few times. And nothing, wasn't like beat, but it was a bit like a few punches to the face and whatnot. And then his officer stopped him, um, and then a few more like humiliations and like fucking manhandling stuff and some processing. And then I had an interview with some Russian soldiers. They were pretty alright, like pretty normal. Um, and then later the KGB guys from Donetsk. It's the best way to describe them. They call it the NGB, but they're just equivalent to KGB. They came, and then like literally the first thing they said to me was like, "You and Shaun Pinner, sniper." I was like, "Oh, I'm not sniper." And he says, "Yeah, it's you and Shaun Pinner, sniper. You dead?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm Ukrainian Marine." I was like, I'm Mortarman." "Oh, even better." Um, and then after that, they put me back into the hall with the other Ukrainians. I was in this like warehouse. There was like 500 others, like all in there, like of all the guys who surrendered. It was like all my battalion in there. Well, at least because when we surrendered, it wasn't like all of us. Like some of them tried to go out on foot, and then others tried to drive out towards Zaporizhia. And then a bunch of us just surrendered. Um, so there was a shit ton of them in there, and there was like border guard and like national guard. And then later on, the KGB guys came back and called me out, put handcuffs on me, and then just like led me to a car. Pretty normal, but I knew what was coming because I knew I was being separated. Like I knew it was coming like from the start, like because I'm a foreigner, I was gonna go through some sort of like fucking bullshit. And then as soon as I got in the car, like they fucking like reversed it, like started driving out the compound, and then like they turned to me and like say to me in Russian, like, "Oh, now we're going to take you to be shot." So I figured like, okay, like I guess this is how I die. I didn't say anything to them. I just like ignored them and just pretended I didn't understand. And then we like drove for like 2 hours. But like during those like an hour into that drive, like I realized, okay, maybe I'm not being shot, but I think I'm being taken somewhere, and I'm probably about to get a beating. So like I had like 2 hours like to just like prepare myself for this beating that I know is coming. And then eventually we reach Donetsk and get out of the car, and then we're met by someone else, and then he said something to me in Russian. I didn't understand anything he said, and then I asked him to repeat what he said. As soon as I asked him that, like he fucking like beat the fuck out of me a few times with the police bat, and then he also stabbed me like on the back here. I didn't know I was stabbed at that time.
What did he stab you with? Like a knife or?
I think it was like some sort of penknife or something.
Right.
But when he did that, like I didn't feel it, like, which surprised me. I didn't even realize I got stabbed. And then he dragged me into the building and then continued to beat the fuck out of me with a fucking police baton. And then he was like asking like all sorts of questions. He was asking like what my position was, like what rank I am, like how much I get paid. What else did he ask? He was asking just like all sorts of like fucking shit. And then he asked like, well, when he told me to take my clothes off so they could see the tattoos. And then they saw the Ukrainian trident tattoo, which I have on my left arm. They beat the fuck out of me for that. And then they saw my YPG tattoo, which got me another beating. And they like started beating me further with that, like interrogating me further with that, because they were like trying to figure out who I was with in Syria. Because for some reason these guys don't really know anything about Syria other than that the Russians are there, but they don't know the different groups there. And then you had like one guy who said he was in Syria, but again, he didn't seem to know a lot about Syria, to like from the way he was speaking. He had like a knife to my ear, like threatening to like cut my ear off if I fucking lied. And then eventually they fucking realized I was trying to say Kurdistan, like I was with the Kurds, etc. They still beat the fuck out of me again after that. So like they kept asking like all these questions, and just every answer just received the beating. And then there was like 2 other people in there as well. Like there was a female chick from my battalion, and there was like some other guy I've never seen before. So it wasn't until like at some point this guy who stabbed me, like he was the guy that like fucking said to me like, do you want a beautiful death or do you want a quick death? And then he told me to look at my shoulder, like when he was like pointing out that he stabbed me.